The following program paid for by Lifespan Wealth Management. Providing financial advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and Jonathan Eisner. And now from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia, and thanks for tuning in to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. So if you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation.
Lifespan Wealth Management has offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience and has been serving Middle Georgia for over 30 years. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com. And while you're on our site, go to the special reports section where you'll find several reports that are available to you for free. You can also sign up to receive our digital feeds, which are short videos providing great information relevant to retirement, investing, and matters that affect your money.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you're in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call, and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group. Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100. Good morning, Middle Georgia, and it's good to be back with you today, and good morning to you too,
Good
Sherry
morning.
and Jonathan.
Good morning.
Hey, guys, listeners, we're sorry you haven't been able to hear the complete show for the last couple of weeks. The station we've been going through has had some challenges, but we're here today, and so thanks for tuning in. And we do appreciate the feedback on the static issues and the intermittent reception that you've received. Turns out that one of the new microphones that we were using had shorted out, and so now we have new ones. So we do appreciate your feedback, as well as the follow-up questions and ideas for topics that you'd like for us to cover in future broadcasts. So please do not hesitate to send us messages for issues that you might be hearing on your end and ideas. You can always email me at randy@rfmoney.com.
Very good.
So on to the markets. The S&P 500 is back in the green. After being at one point down more than 17% for the year, the index rose almost 0.75% Thursday to erase its 25% losses. Hopes for a trade war truce and a shorter than expected inflation report help push stocks higher. The Nasdaq Composite closed 1.61% higher for the fifth straight day of gains, thanks in part to the 5.6 boost in shares of NVIDIA. But nearly an 18% drop in shares of United Health Group weighed on the Dow Industrial Average, which sank 269 points or 0.64%. But we need to remember there's only 30 stocks in the Dow, so just one stock having a major swing like United Healthcare did will have a major impact on the entire index. United Healthcare sits in the 12th position on the Dow in terms of market cap.
So JP Morgan lowered recession odds as Trump strikes a temporary deal to drop tariffs on China. The investment bank had previously predicted a 60% chance of a recession in 2025. The April receipts saw federal government post a $258 billion budget surplus for April, up 23% from a year earlier. The Treasury Department has reported that revenue from tariffs hit a record high of more than $16 billion in April, which has helped reduce the pace of the U.S. budget deficit accumulation. U.S. chip giant NVIDIA and Saudi Arabia announced partnerships on Tuesday as part of the kingdom's plan to develop artificial intelligence and strengthen cloud computing infrastructure with the help of foreign investment. The deals coincide with U.S. President Trump's Gulf tour, which is focused on economic diplomacy and billion-dollar business tie-ups rather than security concerns.
Right. And Saudi Arabia, which is seeking to make its economy less dependent on oil revenue, wants to position itself as a hub for AI and leading center for AI activity outside the United States. A statement from NVIDIA and Saudi Arabia listed a bunch of joint initiatives, which included building AI factories and infrastructure and training developers. This is a good partnership, and there's no shortage of funding with these two partners.
So before I go on with the CPI report, to your point, Randy,
Yeah.
For some reason the Dow Jones Index is the most popular one.
It is.
For some
Right.
reason.
It's big
got
numbers.
30 companies in it.
I know.
And so people, if they say to me, clients or friends or whoever, if they say, well, the Dow was, I say, well, completely disregard what the Dow told you, because
Right.
the
Yeah.
day you're talking about, the Dow was down over 0.6%, but the other two, the S&P and the NASDAQ, bigger indexes were up. They were green.
They could have been.
So they were.
Yeah.
That day that you're talking about, those two were green in the
Yeah.
positive, and then the Dow was in the negative. It's just not a good representation in general of
Exactly.
That is
where
a true
things
statement.
are.
Yep.
So I just wanted to emphasize that because the Dow is
Well, that's
not
the reason I put in there. It's only 30 stocks.
exactly. Yeah, S&P 500 is 500 companies.
Yep.
So that's a much better, probably much better indication of where things are.
Yep.
All right, CPI report this week and the PPI report. They were both released this week. They were generally good. Overall, the CPI increased by 2.3% year over year, which is down from an increase seen in the March report and is the lowest reading since February of 2021. Prices for groceries, including eggs, used cars, and airfares fell sharply. Unfortunately, medical services, auto insurance, and repairs continue to drift higher, probably not surprising to anybody.
So most of my clients are really upset about how much they're paying for car and homeowners insurance. It's become a good chunk of their budget. But I was just at the grocery store yesterday, and the price of eggs has not dropped at all.
Really?
I don't understand
Well, I
because
think-
we eat a lot of eggs.
Yeah, and I think that's a national average, not a Macon, Georgia average.
There you go.
Yeah, it got to be something like that.
Well, I do know that my car and homeowners insurance is a good chunk of
I
my
cannot
budget.
imagine what your insurance is with a new 16-year-old driver.
I just got new quotes. They're very
my
fun.
gosh.
They're very fun. I won't bore anybody with them. All right, the PPI, the Producer Price Index, dropped 0.5% in April, and this was after economists had forecast it to increase by 0.2%. The PPI increased 2.4% year over year. Retail sales up ever so slightly in April, rising 0.1% month over month, which comes on the tail of a 1.7% increase in consumer spending the month before, when it is believed that consumers were spending a lot in an attempt to be ahead of potential tariff-related increases in goods. Lastly, jobless claims for the week remained unchanged for the week prior, holding steady at 229,000 claims. All right, Walmart plans to raise prices because of tariffs, and they probably won't be the only ones to do it. Walmart didn't share a profit forecast for the current quarter and may absorb some tariff costs to keep prices low, but a Walmart spokesperson said this week that it plans to raise prices this month and early this summer because it needs to pass along some of the costs to tariff-affected merchandise. They also said that the full impact of the trade war on consumers has yet to come.
Yep. All right, and on to the Fed. The Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco President Mary Daly said that the strength of the U.S. economy allows policymakers to be patient as they wait for more evidence of how the Trump administration's policies will affect businesses and households. Daly said that when you step back from the uncertainty and you look at where we are today with solid economic growth, a solid labor market, and a declining inflation, she said that it is exactly where we want to be if we're going to deliver a sustainable growth path. They say right now the Fed is in a good position to respond to whatever comes from the Trump policies on taxes, trade, and immigration, and deregulation. The word of the day is patience. Patience, you see, and not guessing.
So Randy and I attended our annual conference last week, and it was very interesting. The CEO of Osaic, our broker-dealer, explained what to expect in our industry in the future, and these moves will impact every investor in America, regardless of the firm you are with. Wealth transfers in the industry are expected to be $2 to $3 trillion in the next 10 years. We've gone from 7,000 broker-dealers, which are companies like Osaic, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, in the U.S. to 1,500, and there continues to be consolidation. More and more advisors are retiring, and not enough new people are coming into the business. On top of this, they estimate 40% of employees in the U.S. will retire in the next 10 to 15 years, and they will need a financial advisor. So our home office is putting tools in the system to help with this. Everything will be digital and cloud-based. Because there will be fewer advisors, there is a need for more technology and tools. IT is all about growth and productivity, and our home office is working to improve all processes with automation.
But this does not mean less interaction with people.
Right.
It means being able to streamline the paperwork, which we were talking about. This is very important. If there's going to be less advisors and more work, we've got to be able to streamline the paperwork side of the business.
And actually, to your point, I think it's going to be more interaction with the clients. It will enable us to spend more time with the client versus generating paperwork.
Yeah.
Yep. So this includes more e-signature options and more options for going paperless. So regardless of what financial advisor you use, you will start seeing more of these changes. So if you get something in the mail about this and need to understand the changes, call the home office of your advisor and ask for help.
One big change for us, and I finally came around to embracing this week, and it was fantastic, is the way that we are going to be taking notes from our client meetings. We've started using a program called Jump, and it can be used on a computer or a phone or a tablet. What happens is we open the program, and it dictates the meeting, which can then be synced over to our note-taking software program, and it's incredibly accurate. It's very organized. It's a huge time saver. Randy and Sherry, as you guys know, when I write up my notes old school, when I go in and type them up, it can take me an entire afternoon, sometimes an entire morning. So I have to set aside time to do it, especially if I have 2 or 3 clients meetings to catch up on at once. So to say that this is a time saver for me is putting it very mildly. And it's just the beginning of technological changes that you're going to start to see in all industries.
I agree. And the beauty of this software is that it allows the advisor to concentrate on the client or the prospect and what they're saying versus taking notes on what they are saying. This allows the advisor to become more of an active listener than a passive listener or a stenographer. At the end, and the end result is the same. We are required to document the meeting in our CRM, which is a client relationship management software system. And there are very specific topics that we are required to document. This software categorizes the conversations accurately into a neat summary. For example, if you discuss beneficiaries at the beginning, the middle, and the end of a meeting, the software will consolidate all of the discussions on beneficiaries and is extremely accurate and efficient.
Funny though. And
Right?
Sherry,
Yep.
you may be in the same position as I am because we're brand new to this. I still find myself writing down things.
I do too.
I asked for permission
still
from
am.
the client. I say, "Hey, can we record this? Because this new software is, AI. It's gonna save us a lot of time." I give them the whole spiel. They say, "Sure." I record, and then they start telling me numbers, and I'm writing them down after I told them this is going to allow me to not write down as much.
It's a habit.
Old habits die hard.
Old habits die hard, but hey, it doesn't hurt to have it written.
But
And
in reality, it does consolidate the notes as you're talking, but it does not record. Does not actively record. That's the big difference.
right, the software just, I guess what's the word? It puts it into a nice neat
consolidates.
synopsis,
Synopsis, yeah.
and it gets all the important
But
highlights.
there's no active recording going on.
Right.
So if you've been to the local hospital lately, and hopefully you haven't, you may have observed your doctor using the same sort of software for note taking. I've heard people complain about this because people feel the doctors are not listening to them. What is really happening is that the doctors are pressured to take notes due to legal issues. And every industry has some level of pressure like this, but this AI-driven solution is incredible. So now the doctors are not having to type while you are there. A software program is running in the background.
Yeah, another valuable feature is the pre-meeting notes. Prior to a follow-on meeting with a client or a prospect, you simply click on the pre-meeting notes function, and the software will generate a list of items that you may want to be aware of to prepare for that meeting. If you mentioned that a client wanted to change their beneficiaries in the last meeting, or say the last several meetings that had not been followed up on, the meeting notes generator will add that to your meeting notes that you want to follow up on. This is AI being put to a very effective use, and for us, it is fantastic. Our problem with you and Jonathan, Sherry, is that y'all got to remember to push the button.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Right. I did do it twice this week, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, what's
it
funny-
exceeded my expectations.
What's funny to me is after the meeting, we come out and y'all go, "I forgot to push the button."
Right.
It's like, and then y'all are in there for an hour or two writing notes up afterwards.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
All right. 17-year-old job offers. Call for interviews with CGTC, that's Central Georgia Technical College. Most popular programs and income. So Elijah Rios won't graduate from high school until next year, but he already has a job offer, and it's one that pays $68,000 a year. Rios is a 17-year-old junior taking welding classes at a school in Philadelphia that works closely with companies looking for workers in the skilled trades. Employers are dealing with a shortage of such workers as baby boomers retire. They have increasingly begun courting high school students. This is a hiring strategy that they say is likely to become even more crucial in the coming years. Employers ranging from the local transit system to submarine manufacturers make regular visits to Father Judge's welding classrooms every year, bringing branded swag and pitching students on their workplaces. When Rios graduates next year, he plans to work as a fabricator at a local equipment maker for nuclear, recycling, and other sectors, a job that pays $24 an hour, plus regular overtime and paid vacations. Sometimes, this is a quote from Rios, sometimes it's a little overwhelming, like this company wants you, that company wants you. And Rios grew up in a Philadelphia neighborhood of Kensington, which is a very drug addict heavy and homeless heavy neighborhood. But he said he is determined to build a better life for himself. Increased efforts to recruit high schoolers into professions such as plumbing, electrical work, and welding have helped spur a revitalization of shop classes in many districts. More businesses are teaming up with high schools to enable students to work part-time, earning money as well as academic credit. More employers are showing up at high school career days and turning to creative recruiting strategies as well.
Yeah, employers say that as skilled trades become more tech-infused, they anticipate doing even more recruitment at early ages because they need workers who are comfortable programming and running computer diagnostics. Bob Walker, the guy who hired Rios, said that he is not interested in hiring the type of person he hired 20 years ago because the equipment today is far too advanced. Rios will be responsible for using and maintaining a $1.7 million steel laser cutter, and he says that he needs tech-savvy workers to operate it.
A decade ago, administrators often snubbed employers in the skilled trades who tried to get a table at a high school career fair, which I find insane. But with more high schools trying to give students alternatives to college, that attitude has changed. Constellation Energy, an operator of U.S. nuclear power plants based in Baltimore, offers maintenance technician and equipment operator roles that are open to high school graduates without a 4-year college degree and pay as much as 6 figures. Last year, Constellation launched a work-based learning program outside Chicago that invites high school students to shadow workers at the company's nuclear facilities while also learning community college credit. The company sponsors Skills USA, a national organization that annually convenes a week-long conference where students learning the trades can show off their skills at a venue the size of 31 football fields. The organization, founded in 1965, has seen an influx of interest from employers in the past few years as well as students, and it's about time.
Right. For years, the pendulum swung too far in the direction of college for all, for everybody. And it's important to make sure students are made aware of all their options, says not Kevin Klein, that's an actor, Steve Klein, a researcher who focuses on vocational education at the nonprofit Education Northwest. At the same time, as interest in vocational education arises, he worries that sentiment runs the risk of swinging too much in the other direction. Aiden Holland, a senior at the high school, was recruited earlier this spring to become a nuclear submarine welder at a defense contractor in New Jersey, a position which pays $75,000 a year. The 18-year-old says he's grateful to have landed a job like that with no college debt and that his college-bound peers are often astonished to learn how much he can make with no degree at all.
This is great, but what's going on right here in Middle Georgia? Well, I called the Houston County Department of Education and spoke with a very energetic young lady about this topic and learned there is a lot going on right here in Houston County to help youth who don't want to go to college but would rather be trained in a specific career. In total, there are 19 career pathways that students can explore. If you want to see a full list of the training options, I will give you the website in just a few minutes, so get your pencil ready. The program is called the Houston College and Career Academy, and the principal is Dr. Sherry Johnson. The students in grades 9 through 12 are eligible to attend the classes during the regular school hours. And if you want to learn more about what they're doing, you should check out their website at hcca.hcbe.net. That stands for Houston County. I don't know. hcca.houstoncounty
Probably
Board of
best to just
Education.net.
email Randy at RF
Yeah,
Money
you
if
can
you
do
want
that.
that. If you want
There
that
you go.
link.
I don't know why I didn't write that down. Anyway.
So one of the great things they do is is having a signing day, just like major league teams. When a person is hired by a company, the company comes in and they make a big deal out of the event.
It's pretty cool.
And they should.
Yeah.
Companies around the Middle Georgia area are using this platform to generate talent, and these students will become gainfully employed and start off with no student loan debt, which I love. We also learned that the courses offered change as demand changes. Right now, there is an effort to add firefighting to the curriculum, and that is being worked out with the Houston County Fire Department. It has not been added yet, but there is no date on the horizon as they are still working on the details. If this interests you, keep an eye on their website.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. They also have a program called the Fire Starter Fab Lab. This program is not just for high schoolers, it's open to the general public. This program provides community access to equipment and training that encourages innovation, entrepreneurship, and STEM education. But access to some of the equipment is second to none. They have a computer lab space with CAD and CAM software, multifunction space that includes CNC machinery, power tools and hand tools, fully functioning woodworking space, 3D printing, laser cutting, and engraving machines, and that's just to name a few. This is a fantastic lab space to be able to use. So if you need a hobby or you want to start a business, I mean,
Great opportunity.
go talk to these folks.
Fantastic.
So,
All righty.
all right, let's move on. Trump signs an executive order pushing AI education into the schools. Here's what that means for Georgia. The executive order gives agencies 180 days to develop AI education resources. The order establishes a White House task force on artificial intelligence education and directs multiple federal agencies to develop AI training resources for students and teachers. And I don't think this would be difficult to create. There's a lot of information on the topic already available and a lot of really talented people already working in this field.
Yep. The executive order states that it is the policy of the United States to promote AI literacy and proficiency among Americans by promoting the appropriate integration of AI into education, providing comprehensive AI training for educators, and fostering early exposure to AI concepts and technology. While Houston County schools currently have no AI certification programs in place, we reported in August that Houston County high school teachers used a program to help detect AI written assignments. And they were trying to teach students how to responsibly use the technology. Central Georgia Technical College has already implemented AI technology in its educational approach. Allison Repczynski, who's the executive director for library and academic support services at Central Georgia Tech, says that CGTC students have access to a closed AI tutor environment where they can interact with AI, learn how to generate prompts, and use it to help them study. It's also monitored very closely.
The goal of the executive order is to create public-private partnerships between schools, government agencies, and technology companies to develop curriculum and resources for teaching AI concepts from kindergarten through 12th grade. The order also directs the Secretary of Labor to increase participation in AI-related registered apprenticeships and encourages states to use funding provided under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act to develop AI skills training programs. When asked about the executive order's feasibility, Repczynski acknowledged implementation challenges. I do think it will be challenging, but it is a rapidly evolving technology that they will need to address in some capacity.
Yeah, Repczynski compared current hesitations about AI in education to past technological innovations. She says that when she speaks to people who are a little hesitant about AI, she reminds them that when the internet was invented, it was banned from the classroom because people were terrified that people would not learn if they could just look up the answer. But looking back, what we learned is that these tools, and if we're taught how to use them properly, they would just make us smarter, more efficient, and better at our jobs. CGTC launched its AI tutor program in 2024, and that program provides students with a secure environment to practice AI interactions while protecting their privacy. All right, switching gears. The Trump administration is considering investments in domestic companies that mine and process critical elements in an effort to reduce America's reliance on imports. The Trump administration is exploring various investment strategies, including sovereign wealth funds, to strengthen the U.S. supply of critical minerals such as rare earth. China is the top producer of 30 of the 50 minerals that the U.S. Geological Survey considers to be critical. For rare earths, which comprise of 17 elements, it is a near monopoly over the global supply chain, accounting for over 60% of mine production and nearly all processing. The U.S., meanwhile, has limited domestic production and imports about 80% of the rare earth it used last year, with most of these coming from China. Now, China has weaponized its critical minerals dominance by imposing export restrictions on 7 rare earths, highlighting the urgency for the U.S. to develop its own resources. Last week, the White House identified 10 mining projects to be fast-tracked under the FAST-41 permitting initiative. These include projects covering copper, lithium, and antimony in states such as Idaho, Arizona, and Nevada.
It will be great for the Panhandle area of Idaho, which is where I am from. There are mines and mining projects there that have been stuck in permit quagmire for decades because of onerous EPA regulations. And recently, the Interior Department announced that it will expedite the development of domestic energy resources and critical minerals. Under the new emergency permitting system, mine project approvals could be reduced from years down to just 28 days at most. As part of its plan to boost domestic production of critical minerals, the Trump administration has also proposed to build metals refining facilities on Pentagon military bases as part of an executive order last month. And why not? There's usually a lot of land that is not being used. Put it to good use. I just find that amazing.
I do too.
Smart.
You've been listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management with your hosts, Sherry Goss, Randy Goss, and me, Jonathan Eisner. If you'd like to contribute to the show, you can email Randy at rfmoney.com with a question or topic that you'd like us to cover in a future broadcast. Our number is 478-922-8100. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins for your convenience.
And you can find out more about us by visiting our website, retirerelax.com. Lifespan Wealth Management has been serving the Middle Georgia area for over 30 years, helping people like you achieve their investment and retirement goals. And if you're in need of a financial advisor, please contact our office at 478-922-8100.
We also offer seminars to the community at no cost. So if you are in need of a guest speaker for your church or civic organization, give us a call and together we can decide what topics you would like us to present to your group.
Again, our contact number is 478-922-8100. Now back to the show.
Okay, the Medicaid calculus behind Donald Trump's tax cuts. Republicans want to save billions through Medicaid work requirements. Millions could lose coverage. Just how Republicans will find enough budget savings to pay for tax cuts is the political math question of 2025. One of the most important calculations involves Medicaid, a government health program for poor and disabled Americans. The problem is that Donald Trump has promised not to touch it, pledging to protect it for the most vulnerable, for our kids and pregnant women. However, on May 12th, he also promised to lower prescription drug prices. Trump's populism on health benefits complicates the work of congressional Republicans hoping to slash spending. The committee that oversees Medicaid has finally released its proposal. Its outline steers clear of the deepest cuts that had been debated in Washington, but it nonetheless seeks large savings by imposing work requirements on Medicaid recipients who are unemployed. The committee's approach would reduce the deficit by $715 billion over the next 10 years, according to a preliminary analysis from the Congressional Budget Office, or the CBO, which is a nonpartisan scorekeeper. But it would also cause 8.6 million fewer Americans to have health insurance by 2034. That trade-off raises two questions about the budget fight ahead. Will the president accept any plan that forces millions of low-income people off Medicaid? And are work requirements, long a fixture of conservative thinking on social benefits, a viable fix?
Both good questions. Today, Medicaid provides health care. Medicaid provides health coverage for 71 million Americans, 20 million more than 15 years ago. The Affordable Care Act fueled the growth, allowing states to cover more people, but it also supercharged the price of the program. In 2023, it cost $880 billion, up from the $402 billion in 2010. The point of instituting work requirements would be both to cut health care spending to push people into work. The public agrees with him. While cutting Medicaid in general is deeply unpopular, 6 in 10 Americans support adding work requirements. The House plan would make recipients aged 19 to 64 do 80 hours of work, job training, or volunteering per month. There would be various exemptions for those with dependents or disabilities. The problem is less with the principle than with the implementation.
So to start, very few people who receive Medicaid do not work. Just 8% of working-age, able-bodied Medicaid recipients are unemployed. Creating a policy that targets them but does not sweep up others is hard. During Trump's previous term, Arkansas became the first state to attempt work requirements. It was, in a word, a mess. People had to report their working hours every month, and I remember this because we talked about this on the radio show back then. People had to report their working hours every month or risk losing their insurance. By the time a judge put a stop to the program, less than a year later, 18,000 people had lost their coverage. Researchers found that most of those were still eligible, they just missed or messed up their paperwork. Among those who lost Medicaid, half reported serious problems paying off medical debt, and almost 2/3 delayed taking medicines because of the cost. Healthcare providers said that it was the neediest, such as disabled and homeless people, who are left uncovered. For all these problems, there was not even an increase in employment in the 18 months after the change. This problem of policy design is not unique to Arkansas. In 2023, the CBO found that a House Republican plan for work requirements would not increase employment. The requirements would save money, however. The Commonwealth Fund, a think tank, examined the plan and estimated gains of about $500 billion over 10 years, or roughly a third of the overall budget cuts that Republicans are now looking for. One downside in its calculation was that around 300,000 to 450,000 jobs would be lost because of reductions in healthcare spending.
Yep. Still, the allure of work requirements is more of a political thing, according to Tom Scully, who led the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services under George W. Bush. It feeds an ideological urge that Medicaid should not be an entitlement, he says, even though it's a very small piece of the budget issue. Work requirements have plenty of support on a state level, too. Since Trump re-entered office, 13 states have started proposing their own plans through waivers that make policy experiments possible. That enthusiasm points to a possible upside to allowing work requirements. Big federal subsidies incentivize expanding Medicaid, but 10 states have not done that, in part because of the welfare state connotations of such a move. That stigma may fade as MAGA builds a political coalition grounded in working class communities that rely on benefit programs.
So that'll be interesting how this weighs out. So next topic, do you have a will? I continue to be amazed at clients and prospects who are retired and do not have a will. Randy was in the military when we married, and we moved out of the U.S. for his next tour. The government mandated that we had a will and power of attorney in the event that he was deployed and I had to get the kids back to the United States. So because we had to do this, it just became a habit. We're working on some changes to our wills now, so I want to talk about this. Here's a question for all of you. When is the last time you reviewed your will and your beneficiaries? Do you have a power of attorney in place, and does your financial advisor have a copy of it?
Yeah, and while we're talking about these documents, how about an advance directive, which is the form you use to state what level of treatment you want if you are very ill and cannot come back to be who you are now. All of these forms are free. All you have to do to get the will and the power of attorney notarized, and your bank can do that for you, probably do it for you anyway.
The free will can be found at meetfabric.com/wills. Again, just email us for that link, and it is sponsored by Gerber Baby Food.
The free POA and events directives can be found by searching free POA Emory Law. They are all fillable forms, so the next time you have a family gathering, I suggest you share this information. I'll never forget the call I got one night on Channel 13 after talking about wills. This gentleman called, and he said he didn't need a will. So I asked him if he owned a house, and he did. Then he said, well, my wife and I have been married for years. She'll just automatically get it. I explained that is not true. If they had one child, she'd get half of the house. If they had more children, she'd get a third of the house. He had never heard of this, and he was retired. So please talk to your family about this stuff and get everything straight.
Yeah, and don't be intimidated by these forms. These are very easy to complete. Once you download the documents, just take the time to read through these things, become familiar with them, and then fill in the blanks, and then go get them notarized. And speaking of getting the documents notarized, do not sign the document before you meet with a notary. The notary must witness you signing the document, so be sure to bring a valid ID and sign the documents in their presence.
Yep, for sure. You guys are currently in the process of getting a trust made,
That we
right?
are, yes.
Okay. And I know wills and trusts are very different, but what made you guys want to make that change to get the trust made?
So we're concerned about our kids inheriting too much money at once, on top of the IRA and the Roth 10-year rule, which I hate, and I wish they would destroy
Horrible
it.
rule.
Horrible. When a non-spouse inherits an IRA or a Roth, the accounts have to be liquidated within 10 years and taxes paid. So I'm dealing with this a lot. Many beneficiaries decide to just spend the money as they have to take it out of the accounts. Terrible. By mandating that this money goes into a trust, we're directing the trust manager to not only allow distributions of only 4% a year, which can be made monthly, so that this money lasts for generations. We just can't stand the thought of all of this money being burned through in 10 years. So if you're interested in doing this, contact an estate planning attorney.
And the other thing, too, is that a will can be protested and challenged, and
A trust.
a trust cannot.
Okay.
So it'll be
Got it.
fixed. Yep.
You guys should. I've heard so many good things about the attorney you guys are using.
And
we should plug her, shouldn't we?
Well, we are planning on having her on the show.
Oh, good.
Yep. So
Okay.
we'll save that for another day.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right. Social Security reduces benefit clawback from 100% to 50% for some. Just weeks after announcing a 100% withholding rate on new overpayments of benefits, the Social Security admin has slashed the rate down to 50% for certain beneficiaries. For new overpayment notices sent on or after April 25th, the 50% default withholding rate will apply to so-called Title II benefits, which include retirement, survivors, and disability insurance. According to an emergency message released by the Social Security admin, the withholding rate for supplemental security income benefits will remain 10%.
Yeah, obviously, it's better not to lose all of your income. But if you're relying on your benefits to pay for your rent or mortgage to buy food, losing half of that income is going to be devastating and can still result in people becoming homeless. Beneficiaries may owe the Social Security Administration money due to overpayments. When their monthly benefit checks are more than what they're owed, the erroneous payments can happen for a variety of reasons, such as if a beneficiary fails to report a change in their circumstances to the agency, or if the agency does not process information promptly or enters errors on its data. When the Social Security Administration determines a beneficiary has been overpaid, a notice is sent to request a full and immediate refund.
Beneficiaries typically have 90 days to request a lower rate of withholding, a reconsideration, or waiver of recovery. If they do not make such a request within that 90-day window, the agency will withhold up to 50% of their benefits until the sum of the amount that was overpaid is fully recovered. The Social Security Administration has previously announced that it would increase the default withholding rate for overpayments to 100%. Under President Joe Biden's administration, the default withholding rate had been dropped to 10% of a beneficiary's monthly benefit, or $10, whichever was greater.
While beneficiaries do have the ability to negotiate the payments, there is no guarantee that they will be successful, and the outcomes could vary. According to the Social Security Administration, there are thousands of employees that individual beneficiaries are going to be dealing with to ask for a waiver or ask to negotiate a different repayment rate, and those employees have a lot of discretion in what they decide. Beneficiaries who are dealing with overpayment issues also face long wait times to make an appointment to visit a Social Security Administration office. That's probably not a surprise to anybody,
Right.
which can interfere with their ability to exercise the options available to them.
So the GOP tax bill would give every American newborn $1,000 in a MAGA account. How would it work, and would it make a difference? Families would be allowed to add up to $5,000 a year to children's investment accounts proposed in the Republican spending and tax bill. A proposed investment account for American children in the massive spending and tax bill proposed by the House Republicans would do little to meaningfully reduce the financial pressures that parents face today, economists and family advocates across the spectrum say. In addition to a $500 increase in the child tax credit, the bill proposes a pilot program to create a so-called Money Account for Growth and Advancement, or a MAGA account. MAGA, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Make America Great Again.
Right.
MAGA.
For every child who is a U.S. citizen born after December 31st, 2024, and before January 1st, 2029. The accounts will be funded with $1,000 of taxpayer money that a family would invest in stocks. The money would be withdrawable from the account only after the child reaches the age of 18.
Too bad all my kids were born before
Right?
2024.
You're right.
How about retroactively starting these for my kids? That'd be cool. The idea for government-funded children's accounts was proposed by hedge fund founder Brad Gerstner, who's the chief executive of Altimeter Capital Management. He proposed it to Senator Ted Cruz last April. And then Cruz introduced the idea to introduce the Invest America Act, which establishes a private tax-advantaged account with $1,000 of seed money from the federal government for every American child at birth. That legislation was adjusted and worked into the current spending and tax bill as MAGA accounts. Cruz said in a statement that the Invest America accounts would improve financial security, as every child in America will have private investment accounts that will compound and enhance the prosperity and economic participation of the vast majority of Americans. Aside from the initial $1,000 investment from the government, families would be allowed to put up to $5,000 a year, which is indexed for inflation, to the MAGA account, which would be invested in an index fund that minimizes fees and expenses and tracks U.S. equities, according to the bill. Investing just $1,000 in an account for 18 years would grow the money to roughly $5,000, assuming a 10% annual return.
unless they actually add more. I mean,
Well,
which is incredible.
And we're going to
just
get to
the
that in
1,000.
just a second.
As the bill is written now, the tax advantages of MAGA accounts would be limited compared to 401k and even 529 accounts, which are tax advantaged accounts the parents use to save for their children's education. The funds would not be accessible until the child reaches age 18 and would then be taxed as capital gains when they use it for education, buying a home, or starting a business. When used for other purposes before the age of 30, withdrawals will be subject to income tax plus 10%. The funds will be paid out to the account holder when they turn 31. And at this point, it does not look like this program provides for any tax-free distributions from the account.
And back to your point, Sherry, about adding extra money. I had a little time to play with the numbers on this, and at first I reduced the average return to 6.5% just to be conservative, and that reduced the growth from $5,000 that they stated to roughly $3,100 after 18 years. But if the funds stayed in the account for the full 31 years at the 6.5 rate of return, the account would be worth a little more than $7,000. But here's the interesting point. If I added just an additional $100 per year over that 31-year period, the returns are monumentally different. See the miracle of compounding interest here. Just adding that $100, that investment turns into about $17,000. And assuming 6.5% annual return over the 31-year period, and instead of adding an additional $100,000 annually, you added $20 per month. The ending figure would be about $30,000. So a little bit can go a long way. And then say you're forced to take the money from that account at the end of the 31-year period, as they say you would. You could reinvest that money into an account and continue the investment process.
That's what I would hope people would do and not spend it.
Exactly. So let's assume that you had a 22% tax bracket, which covers single filers up to $89,400 and joint filers up to $190,700. And we'll use the $30,000 number for simplicity's sake. And so at 22%, the $30,000 would cost you $6,600 in federal taxes, netting you $23,400. Then reinvest this money into an account to continue the savings program until you retire. And let's say, assume age 72. That's another 41 years at the same 6.5 annual return. You would have about $356,000. Not bad. Now, if you could add another $50 per month instead of $20, you would end up with $426,000 in that account. I know this is a lot of numbers, but the point is this program may seem like a political stunt to some, but considering that the majority of Americans don't have an emergency savings account or can't pull enough cash together to pay for an emergency event less than $1,000 expense, much less having a down payment for a home, I don't think this is a bad idea at all if people would just take the opportunity
and do it correctly.
To do it correctly.
Yes. Interesting.
Even if only a small fraction of people did the right thing with it.
Yes.
It's still serve. I mean, right? It still serves as a.
It could be the difference in your quality of life at retirement.
For sure.
So here's the other thing that I think of with this. This is an education opportunity to help people understand even investing, because you have half of our country doesn't invest anything. They live on cash flow. They don't invest. They don't save. This would be an opportunity for people to actually learn what this means.
Yes.
That's right.
And potentially change their lives.
Right. I just wrote that up on one little piece of paper. It took me like 10 minutes, and this is something that everyone needs to understand, and it's not hard. You can just look up an investment calculator on Google, and it's very simple parameters. You put in what you start with, you put in your investment rate of return, you put in the theorized inflation rate, and then you can put in how much am I going to put in either monthly or annually, and then you hit the calculate button, and it does this for you.
Right.
It does not take a rocket scientist to do this.
But I hope that this goes through. I think this is extremely positive for
Absolutely.
the future.
Speaking of positive things for youth, DeSantis has a solution to Florida's labor shortage, and that is teenagers.
This is amazing.
I love this. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, his office has drafted and pitched language for the current legislative session that would cut restrictions on the hours that minors can work. The proposal is moving through the legislature now. It has support from the small business groups and opposition from unions and advocates for the poor. Florida is the latest in a string of states looking to revamp or try to change child labor laws in recent years. Some have extended the hours teens can work while school is in session or have scrapped work permits. Others, like Ohio, have lowered the minimum age that they will allow to serve alcohol, while Iowa allowed 16 and 17-year-olds to take jobs that they were previously barred from, such as demolition operations and brick manufacturing and work training programs. The bills are partly a response to a shortage of workers for employers such as supermarkets, retailers, and theme parks. Supporters, including small business groups, chambers of commerce, and restaurant and lodging associations, say the changes help businesses meet their labor needs and give teens valuable life experience. DeSantis said, "What's wrong with expecting our youth to be working part-time? And why do we say we need to import foreigners, even import them illegally when, teenagers are here and we can use them to work at these resorts?"
We started working at the age of 15,
Right.
both of us. It's like because we needed the
Dishwashers.
money. Right.
In Florida, a 2023 law cracking down on illegal immigration prompted some workers to leave the state and made filling jobs harder for some small businesses. But the state labor market continues to be tight. Florida unemployment rate was 3.6% in February compared with 4.1% nationally, and the job openings rate in Florida was 4.8% of employment in January compared with 4.6% nationally.
So last year, DeSantis signed into law a bill that loosened some restrictions on construction work for 16 and 17-year-olds. He signed a separate bill that extended the hours that minors could work, a measure he apparently thinks fell short. Under federal child labor standards, people under 18 are largely barred from certain occupations such as mining or meatpacking operations. You were cutting steaks, though, in high school. I wonder if that counts as meatpacking.
No,
I was wondering-
no.
No?
You're talking about slaughtering and
Okay,
stuff.
you weren't doing that. Okay. Anyways, those under 16 can work only limited hours. For example, no overnight shifts. Children 13 and under can work only a few jobs. Many states have laws that are stricter than the federal standards, but more than a dozen other states have pared back child labor laws.
Among those supporting the bills are conservative advocacy groups such as the Foundation for Government Accountability, a Naples, Florida-based organization that has lobbied for such legislation in several states. They often cast the issue as one of parental rights, arguing that families, not the government, should decide whether teens work and what jobs they do. I agree with that. Kim Barlag, chief executive of the Pickerington Area Chamber of Commerce outside Columbus, Ohio, backs a state bill that would allow 14 and 15-year-olds to work until 9 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. on school nights. Companies face debilitating workforce issues, she said, and cited two local businesses, a soda fountain and an ice cream shop, that rely on teen workers and are open later than 7 p.m. Ohio Senate this month approved both the bill and a resolution urging Congress to change the federal law that prohibits children those ages from working until 9 p.m. during the school year. The measures are now in the state house, and other states are watching and sure to follow.
So Randy and I both started, we've talked about this before,
Yep.
as dishwashers at 15 and wanted to make our own money so we could buy things we wanted. We still did our homework. We still got good grades. I think this is a good thing as long as the kids can choose the hours they'll work,
I
right?
completely agree with
I think
you.
it's a good idea, and I think it provides confidence for the kids. They get to make their own money. They get to learn some real world experiences.
It was
early
really
on.
good for me. It
Yep.
was really good for me to get out there and have that experience. So yeah, I agree.
And I agree with the notion that it should be the families that decide, not,
Yes,
not
yes,
anybody
absolutely.
else, All right, secret purges, tense standoffs. This is the ultimate war over household clutter. Man, it seems like we have a segment every week on storage and,
It's gotten to be that way.
It's ridiculous.
This story actually hits close to home for us because not only do we talk about it a lot, but we probably talk about it a lot because we hear it a lot from clients.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
And it's not because we have big clutter issues, but again, what we hear from a lot of our clients, and that their parents and grandparents maybe are going through. But the story we ran across started with a gentleman who has been secretly tossing his wife's socks into the trash for years. Not her everyday socks, but the size 14 ones that her mom orders as gifts from sites like Temu. He's done it nearly a dozen times, burying them under garbage to avoid detection.
I think it's so funny.
It is hilarious. He says that she'll never wear them. And this reminds me of you throwing Randy's weights away, which I think you said
She
something.
gave
you
them
said
away.
something. Oh, gave them away. Okay. Yeah. But she got rid of them regardless. The simple fact is that homes across America are busting at the seams with knickknacks, gadgets, and other impulse purchases amassed during a golden era of cheap stuff. And now many people are stocking up even more to get ahead of tariffs, which are threatening to drive up prices, as we know. For many couples, that's leading to tense negotiations, stealth purges, and emotional standoffs over what gets to stay.
Right. Most non-city dwellers have more space, but imagine living in a cramped New York-style apartment. One couple in the article thought they solved the issue by moving out of a city and into a house. Instead, their possessions have only expanded to fill the available space. He has a G.I. Joe collection, action
I
figures.
could just burn that to the ground. Or donate it. Donate it to a cancer center for a kid.
And here's the sad thing, he has his G.I. Joe action figures and comic book collections that he hauled in from his parents' house, who had been, storing all this junk while they were living in the apartment. And that stuff is competing for space with the racks of clothing that his wife bought on sale and some that she's never worn. And he will argue the comic book might gain in value, and she will point to the deal she got on the designer coat. Neither is eager to give up ground.
Randy, have you seen your comic book collection in a while? Because I think Sherry might have burned it to the ground. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I wonder what that char smell was in the house.
I think it's gone.
Right. Well, both sides are justifying their clutter, but in reality, they say they're just defending their turf. 60% of people in the March survey by a storage company, Storable, said that clutter has kept them from having people over to visit.
Insane.
Embarrassing.
Right, it
crazy.
It's terrible.
So literally last weekend, we went through our closet. We tried on everything and put a giant bag into the Goodwill pile.
Yep.
Because if I haven't worn it in 2 years, I get rid of it. What's the point?
And if I haven't worn something in 2 weeks, she gets rid of it.
Or if you haven't used your weights, if you haven't used your barbells, your dumbbells.
Right.
I love getting rid of stuff. I'm an addict. This is interesting. Marilyn Wedge, a family therapist, says that for some couples, clutter isn't just about stuff. It's about feeling seen. When someone feels powerless or unheard in a relationship, they might unconsciously claim space with possessions. Unused stuff can be hard to part with because people often view their possessions as extensions of themselves. Some couples devise complicated processes to cull unused items from the home. One couple has a drawer, I like this one, that small unwanted or unused items are moved to. When the drawer is full, they discuss each item and decide whether to keep it or get rid of it. They also have a section of the garage that serves as a staging area for larger objects like toys and kitchen tools. Items linger until they've forgotten or finally deemed unnecessary. The emotional baggage isn't the only burden. All that stuff adds up financially too. So imagine when your kids leave home, Jonathan, when all this stuff that your kids have that they're playing with, that they're using.
It's going to take you 2 years, and and once they graduate college, you're going to pick up the phone one day and you're going to say, "Hey, I've got these boxes of junk down here. You need to come get it." And they're like, "No, Dad, we don't really want that anymore." And you're going to be like, "Why did I hang on to this all these years?"
Right.
You know? So,
but then it'll be trash.
Yeah, but this couple that we're talking about here, on the last Saturday of every month, they have a wrestling match in their backyard to see who's the winner on getting rid of the stuff. Have you noticed that the storage facilities and storage buildings are everywhere? Everywhere you go in Middle Georgia, families rent storage units that they rarely visit. They pay higher. They pay for bigger moving trucks and sometimes repurchase things they already own but they can't find. And the underlying problem is not just about clutter; it's about the money wasted on unnecessary items. There was a U.S. News and World Report from late January of this year that 42% of Americans don't have an emergency fund, and 40% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency expense with cash or savings.
So if this story hits close to home, take a few minutes and decide what you can do to rectify the issue. This is an issue that only you and maybe your spouse together can solve, but it's a problem. The storage units and the storage buildings, I have clients that have 3 generations of junk in their house. They can't hardly move around in it because it's so crowded, but they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Call the Salvation Army, call somebody, get them to come with a truck and just unload all this stuff and donate it to somebody that can use it, please.
I see this in the notes here, Sherry, that you gave Randy's weights to the lady that cleans our office.
The cleaning lady.
And said, okay, I figured maybe she could get some use out of them. And then it says here, I did get them back for him, though.
Well, actually, the truth to this thing is, She said I hadn't used them in a long time, which is like 3 days.
Right.
Honestly,
That's
okay?
a long time, Randy.
Yeah, it's a long time, and it's relative to somebody, right?
Right.
And I had to go get them back.
But I just wonder how that conversation went. Like, hey, you know those weights that my wife gave you?
Yeah,
I need those back.
Oh, she was good. She was good
That's,
with
exa-
it.
that's exactly
Yeah.
how it went. I mean, I said, Sherry has a tendency. She goes, yeah, I kind of wondered about that because I didn't think she used them. So, I mean, yeah. But if, yeah,
I love getting rid of stuff and donating stuff. I'm addicted.
yeah. Yeah.
That's better than the alternative.
I'm not a hoarder.
Right.
Just the other day in our house.
I'm the
she's-
anti-hoarder.
Yes.
Just the other day in the house, she goes, Randy, what about this item? Do we really? I said, Sherry, if you're going to get rid of it, just get rid of it. I'm to that point.
Right.
As long as it's not in my closet, in my little section,
Yeah.
as long as it's not in my wood shop,
Get
that's
rid of it.
That's it. All right. Well, we're at the end of the show. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening to Your Money, produced by Lifespan Wealth Management. As financial advisors, the main thing we do is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you're looking for an investment advisor, call our office at 478-922-8100 to set up your complimentary consultation. You can learn more about our services by visiting our website at retirerelax.com.
And if you'd like to contribute to the show, you can email me, randy@rfmoney.com, with a question or a topic that you would like for us to cover in a future broadcast. And we look forward to connecting with you next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.